Hello again, Great and K here with another episode of my Revolution 3 Let's Play. Nice to see you all again. So, last time was a bit of a mess, but long story short, we got started with a little bit of Rotarycraft. And in retrospect, I didn't really do a good job of explaining it, nor did I really prepare or plan all that well for it, so yeah. Today's episode, I'm going to try and explain a few things about Rotarycraft in a more clear manner, and we're going to work our way up to some ethanol production. Now, off camera, I have been experimenting a bit, been looking into stuff, and, well, I think I can do a better job this time. So, let's get started. Okay. One major misconception, in my opinion anyway, about Rotarycraft is that it's horrendously complicated from the get-go. Not exactly the case if you take a closer look. Much like a RF-compatible mod like EnderIO, Rotarycraft uses a system of producers, conduits, and consumers to move power around and get some effects. I've put down a pair of consumers, in this case an alloy smelter to represent an RF compatible consumer, and a fermenter for the Rotarycraft variant. I've got a DC electric engine to provide Rotarycraft power and the Stirling generator to provide RF. Let me see if I can just... No, I can't just rotate that, so let me just quickly break that and put that back down. And finally, you have conduits. Now, for RF compatible mods, you've got a whole variety of stuff you can use. I'm just going to use a simple EnderIO conduit here to push power from the Stirling generator into the alloy smelter. For the Rotarycraft mod, however, it's a little more complicated, but not by much. You've got these shaft units, which you can put between a motor that generates rotary energy and whatever consumer needs the rotary energy. Since a shaft is always straight and always goes from one side to the other, they might be a little trickier to install if you don't pay attention, but in general, red is output, green is input. It's now pointing the green end at the DC electric engine, the red end was pointing at the fermenter. This is now configured correctly. And in use, they're also pretty comparable. Put charcoal in here to generate RF. RF goes over the conduit and into the smelter. The first difference, however, no wait, I'm a bit eager to get to the point where it gets different, but yeah. DC electric engine is literally the easiest to use and also the worst to use. You just provide it with a redstone signal and it starts spinning, the shaft spins, and the fermenter now has power and speed and torque. That's where the first major difference comes in. In an EnderIO network or Buildcraft network or anything that works with RF, each generator generates a specific amount of energy per tick. That amount of energy is then transferred in certain packets over whatever conduits it has, in this case packets of 20 RF according to the tooltip in the bottom right. And finally it's stored wherever wherever the consumer stands. The first major difference is that unless you specifically build it in, a Rotarycraft network has pretty much no storage capacity. Turning it off does cause it to keep spinning for a little bit, but as you can see, the power is quickly running down as the rotational energy just loses its spin. There goes the speed and there goes the torque. Another thing to keep in mind because of that is that rotary networks basically are either on or off. They can't just be turned off for a little while on the producer side and still keep the consumer side running for all that much longer. The second difference between these two networks is that where this one only has one quality of the power to keep in mind, being the quantity of RF you have in the network total versus the amount that's consumed. In a Rotarycraft network, you have three variables to keep in mind. You've already seen them. They are power, speed, and torque. Let's go over them for a little bit. Speed is basically how fast is this getting spun. Torque is with how much force is this getting spun. And power means speed times torque. The point is, a lot of people get frustrated with machines that require a bunch of different specific statistics. For example, this fermenter. The fermenter. Minimum power of 1 kilowatt and a minimum speed of 32 radians per second. Keep in mind, the radians are the measure in which rotational speed is measured in this mod. Basically, pi radians per second means 1 rotation per second. You can just forget that right now. It's not too important to remember. It's more important to remember that speed times torque equals power. Unless you're dealing with machines that have a certain amount of friction applied, generally the power in a network remains constant so long as the engines powering the network keep running. No matter how long you let this spin, it will always produce 1.024 kilowatts at 56 radians per second. That means that, well, that means a whole bunch of stuff, but more importantly, you can swap around and change the speed and torque so long as the power remains constant. And okay, that's a bit hard to explain by default, but let me just put it this way. I have a steel 4-on-1 gearbox. That means that this gearbox, if put in place of this steel shaft, should in theory be able to quadruple the output speed while dividing the output torque by 4, or the other way around, 4 times the torque at 1/4 the speed. Now, I know for a fact that this one is going to give me a whole lot less than that, because it requires a bit of lubricant to reduce the amount of friction. And, well, the friction is just barely high enough that if I start this, you see that this has just too little power. And as you can see, I just got an achievement for causing damage to my gears. If you look closely, you can also see sparks flying off of them. But yeah, that in a nutshell is how a Rotarycraft quote-unquote network relates to a redstone flux network. Okay, so I must fill up. In any case, the end goal I'm going for right now is to have a grinder ready, which I can use to make large quantities of certain materials. A grinder has a minimum power requirement of 4 kilowatts, a little over 4 kilowatts, whatever, and a minimum torque of 128 Newton meters of torque. Yeah, it needs a certain amount of torque. Words are hard. Have I mentioned that before? I probably have. In any case, let's see what else I'm going to need. Right, the amount of power. Now, Rotarycraft has a whole bunch of engines, motors, and etc. But we're going to use, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the gasoline engine. Despite its name, it can be fueled with ethanol crystals, which is what I'm building up this entire sequence for, this entire setup. It's got the required amount of torque by default. That's nice. Yep. However, it produces a good deal more power than is absolutely needed. So in theory, if we can keep the torque the same, we could power multiple grinders off of one. Um, no, wait, am I? Yeah, I'm correct. We could power multiple grinders off of one gasoline engine, so long as they all get their 4 kilowatts of power at 128 torque, uh, Newton meters of torque. So, how are we going to do that? Well, at this point I would love to say simple, we do so and so, but it's not quite that simple. I mean, it's easy to conceptualize, but yeah. In any case, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself at this point. Before we get to the grinders, we are going to need a whole bunch of other things. See, making what were they called again? The ethanol crystals that are required to power that gasoline engine, we need sludge. Sludge is made by combining yeast and, among many other things, sugarcane, which is why we've got a lovely little garden of sugarcane being managed by our magical little robots. Yeast, however, is made by combining sugar, yay, double usage, woohoo, with some dirt, which is why I've been harping so much on making this chest full of rotten scallions. In any case, the first step I'm going to need to set up is a way to turn this this rotten food into dirt. Thankfully, that's pretty easy. It's just 9 rotten food in a square makes 1 dirt. So, I'm gonna set that up next, and I'll be right back. I've had a bit of time to think, I did a bit of research, and I've decided to split up stuff along different lines. So, first thing I'm going to need is a way to make the rotten food into dirt. Just pretty simple, just need this crafter here, and that crafter needs power, which is why I have this rotational dynamo. Second, along the same lines, I'll also need sugar, because one of these is going to make sugar and dirt into yeast, and the other is going to make sugar cane and dirt into, well, sludge. So first things first, I need to process dirt but I need to make dirt and sugar in one contained area. Easy enough, actually. So, to make things, okay, to make things work the way I want them to, I've decided to provide the power to the fermenters with a pair of direct current engines. Remember, those just require a constant redstone signal, easy enough to do. These two are getting a good temperature, so that's nice. Oops. That, okay. So, what I'm gonna need is a grinder, which takes sugarcane and outputs sugar. Put it, let's say, here. Just rotate it so you've got the input side on a pretty easy to reach side. And I'm gonna need, no, not you, the crafter, right next to that. It's already configured to not take any items from any of the sides. Let me just complete that. Except the top is going to be in/out, so I can just hook up a conduit there and get everything I need in there and take everything I want to retrieve out of there. So next up I need to power these two, so rotational dynamo goes here. The rotational dynamo is how shall I put this? A little compatibility add-on for Rotarycraft. Basically, you put in rotational energy and RF energy comes out. Pretty neat, huh? Now, rather than powering both of these on individual motors, I'm just going to put down one gasoline-powered engine here, rotate it until it faces the right way, and then I'm going to use a new item called the shaft junction. Shaft junction is in effect a junction, in fact a shaft with, well, a side exit. So I can now just put one of these here, and now half the torque from this gasoline engine goes here, and the other half will go straight ahead, where it goes into one of these bevel gears, which basically act as corners. Now, you have to configure these correctly, so I'm just going to right-click a few times. Notice how there are 6 lines coming from the center in 6 different colors. We want the power to go from the orange side to the yellow side. So we grab something else, we say input side orange, output side yellow, and now it's pointing in that direction, and everyone's happy. Where did I put my angular transducer? I guess I left my angular transducer downstairs, but the short version is this should now be a suitable system to split the engine from this one engine into these 2 items. Pretty neat, huh? In any case, I'm now going to try and wire up the rest of this build, so I'll be back in a moment. See you soon. Okay, halfway through configuration right now. I'm out in this run for a little bit to get some sludge to configure some of the stuff that needs to be configured with sludge. Time to move on to the next step. Sludge is only half the story. Once you've got sludge, you need to smelt it to get ethanol crystals, which is what we're actually going for. So, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to let this spin out, since the constant buzzing is extremely annoying. It should stop right about now. Okay, there we go. Now I can at least hear myself think again. So, what I'm going to need is a regular old Minecraft furnace with a friction heater. Basically, if you spin this baby up while placing it facing towards a furnace, you can use that furnace pretty much for free. So this one goes here, and this one goes like that, and now it just needs some input here. While I'm on the subject of stuff that's going to need spin power, I'm also going to going to place down a second grinder, because as I mentioned before, lubricant is a pretty important part of keeping your stuff from exploding as fast. So this one goes here. Since with any luck I'll be making a good amount of stuff anyway, I'm just going to hook this. I'm just going to hook that all up. I was about to say to use a second gasoline engine, and yeah, found out I forgot to bring the stuff I actually need to wire everything up. Okay, anyway, the second gasoline engine is going to go here, So, shaft junction, gotta spin it around a bit. So yeah. Okay, now it's splitting power. Power goes in here, comes out there and there. This one goes here, it needs to go from purple to black. So from purple to black. Alright, looks good. Then the steel shaft goes here, and now these two are connected. Woohoo! So, now all I really need to do is put one of these on top and check. Well, since this one's going to extract the sludge, I'm just going to put one of these here. Tell it to only extract sludge and extract it to the blue channel, because that's what's going to contain the, you know, stuff. In out, insert from the blue channel, because that's where we're pulling out the sludge. Extract into, let's say, the green channel. Green channel is fine. And yeah. Now, on this one, I need, again, an insert and extract thing, but this time it's a little more complicated, because we're going to deal with canola seeds. If you use canola... Wait, what's this? Dense canola seeds. Okay then. Anyway, if you use canola seeds, you get lubricant somewhere around here. But you can also get canola seed husks. You can use that with a bit of yeast to make compost, and compost to make dirt. But we're just not interested in that. So I'm just going to grab this here trash can and put that down over here, so I can wire that up in here to eventually take the canola husks. Now I also need to configure this to so I also need to add a bridge here, so that when it pulls out sludge here, it'll go into the furnace. And as a test, I can just set this to always active, and there we go. Sludge goes into the furnace. Exactly as planned. Now, since I don't have anything to power most of this stuff with just yet, I'm gonna have to grab some charcoal and get that spinning. But once that's done, all I need to do is hook up a barrel or whatever to take the crystals, the ethanol crystals, and configure that to also fill up these gasoline engines. Yeah, they're gonna need two here, so yeah. Be right back. So, a little bit of experimentation later, and it turns out that when I let this run as designed, the friction heater works like a charm. You can see that it's got this constantly full, meaning that whenever I drop something in here that can be cut, it will be cut at a pretty quick pace. A good deal faster than, you know, just using a regular old fuel. However, this grinder is a problem, because as you can see, it's got the power, it's got the speed, but it doesn't have the torque it needs. So, time to start fiddling around with gearboxes. I can just grab this and fit this around so, and now it runs. Except A, pretty slowly, and B, without lubricant in here, this one's gonna take damage eventually. Yep, see, there we went already. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get a bit of lubricant going to begin with, and yeah. Okay, you know what? Scratch this. I'm going to set this up to provide more power going forward and going to the side. It's easy enough. It's now set to 3-to-1 inline, meaning that one quarter of the power goes here, and 3/4 goes here, in the form of torque. Now if I flip this one around, it hasn't got the power it needs. Okay, more torque. 7-to-1, inline. Now that one won't run, but hey, maybe if I just do 31-to-1 inline? No? Come on! Ever frustrating. Well then, since I'm going to need a little bit of lubricant to keep my gears from clogging up everything immediately, I'll just have to put a regular steel shaft in between the grinder and, well, this bit in here, this bit here. I'm pretty much doing this live. Okay, now all the power from there goes in here, and with any luck we have the torque, we have the speed. Well, let me see how much this is pulling right now. Okay, it's now getting 64 kilowatts at 52 radians per second. Okay. And as you can see, it's now generating a small amount of lubricant, which is good, which is very good. I'm starting to think that perhaps one gasoline engine is not going to be sufficient in the end, but for now it's gonna have to suffice. In short, I'm now finally making some lubricant. If I leave that to one of these gearboxes, it shouldn't get damaged as quickly as it would otherwise. Now, since I kind of damaged one of my gearboxes there, I'm going to have to repair it, which requires the use of some gear units. Basically, if you've got a damaged gearbox, you plop it down, and you right-click it with one of... how do you repair it? Yeah. Can be repaired with gear items. Oh. Maybe if I just use a bland old gear. There we go. Completely repaired, ready to go. Now that we've finally got that sorted out, I'm gonna let this run for a little longer. Yeah. Gonna have to deal with those canola seed husks. I really don't have a use for them right now, so yeah, I'm just gonna trash them. And I gotta make sure that this can also run as intended. Yeah, just grab that for a minute. Then this one must be geared up like that. And it's currently in torque mode, so it halves the speed that comes into it and it doubles the torque that comes out. So yeah, lubricant being made. Now we just gotta figure out how to get it from here to all the way here and pretty much everywhere else that requires lubricant. So, be right back. So, it's not pretty, but it should work. Basically, this grinder now gets emptied out into these two reservoirs, which I can then pump out with relative ease. And let's see, what's the downside? That one is going to be disabled. Good. This one is going to be extract. Always active auto extract, and now I can just make a chain of these leading everywhere I need. Come on, work with me. Leading everywhere I need some lubricant to keep things from jamming. So now if I activate this here, you can see, oh, no, you don't go in there. That one's disabled. this one be? So didn't go in there, didn't go in there, good. This one should be inserted. Why is it not going in there? Search. Right, figure out what does and doesn't work. This one's disabled because we don't want to pump our lube into that engine. This one goes like that. And now it works. Good. It's gonna take a little while to fill up, but once it fills up, it shouldn't have all that much trouble, you know, running as intended. In the meantime, let me just figure out how I'm gonna dispose of these empty husks, because I imagine that if we don't extract the husks, this guy will eventually just fail. I wonder just how much lube does it hold? In any case, I'll be right back once I've got the last few details set up, and then this entire operation should be pretty much self-sufficient. Woohoo! Alright, so I lost a bit of footage, it became corrupted when I was editing it, I guess. And so I'm gonna have to re-record this. It's been a few days, I've done a bit of optimizing, and well, there have been some changes that got lost, so let's get over it. First off, there's fire in front of the fermenters now. Basically, the fermenters require a certain temperature, so if you don't supply that temperature, they run slow as molasses. Right now, they're running at pretty much optimal speed, or as close as I can get with my current level of tech. And the reason why they're not overheating is because of these delightful cooling things here and oh shit, here and here. Let me just extinguish myself real quick. Yep. Anyway. Next thing I changed is that instead of using a pair of noisy DC electric engines here, I just further split up the power from this particular engine and divided it evenly between these two lovely fellas. These two still run as good as they need to, so I'm happy. Next, the inventory simulator that replaced the chest that used to be here. Basically, if you put scallions in a chest, they do build up their rot status, but only when you open a chest is that actually checked. So basically you could get stuff with over 100% rotten status, and it still wouldn't quite count. In any case, the inventory simulator pretends it's a player inventory and lets stuff act as if it's in a player's inventory. In the same vein, these two barrels. Sugarcane goes in one, canola seed goes in the other, and basically I can store 64 stacks of stuff in each of them. So yeah, plenty of storage for when these two delightful fellows resume their harvesting duties. Right now I disabled that one because, well, I'm still waiting for this to pick up. It's gonna take a little while. But that should be working. In any case, before we close the episode for real this time, let's just go over the system in its entirety one more time. This magical robot harvests stuff, being canola seeds, scallions, sugarcane. This fellow gathers all of that over there, plus everything else I drop on the ground, and puts it in this chest. This chest then has its contents pulled out and sorted between these three slots, so I can easily access them. Then, from this barrel, stuff gets pumped into the pink line, which then goes here to make sugar. It also goes in here to go in the bottom for the sludge making fermenter. At the same time, see, all the stuff that rotted in here after being pulled out of there and stuffed into here gets pulled into this crafter, which makes dirt, which gets piped along the white line into here, into this fermenter. Sugar, dirt makes yeast at a pretty rapid pace too. Yeast and sugarcane in here makes sludge. Sludge gets pulled out along the blue line, which goes into this here furnace, which is powered by the frictional heater behind it. Furnace cooks it up into, what's the word? Right, ethanol crystals. Ethanol crystals get pulled out. First, the ethanol crystals get pulled out. The system then first tries to push them into the gasoline engines until they're completely filled. And finally, the ethanol crystal get pushed to the barrel. On a side note, canola seeds get pulled out along the green line, get pushed into this here grinder. Grinder grinds it up into lubricant and canola husks. The canola husks are immediately pumped out into this trash can and moved from the world. And lubricant gets pumped out via this little pipe, which I have to place because cheaper pipes cannot pump stuff up against gravity, and gets pumped into this reservoir before being pulled out and piped into the gearboxes to keep them from getting damaged. You get all that? Good. In any case, pretty proud of this build still, and I hope you all enjoyed watching me struggle to build it. Next episode I'm going to look into making those grinders I started all of this over. It's probably going to be a pretty simple build, and well, after that, we'll see. For now, I'm going to end the episode here. Hope you all enjoyed it, and please join again next time. Goodbye!